Welcome to the channel. In this video, what I'm going to do is demonstrate how you can add decorative water, which is above sea level, into a custom map for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. Now, this is a bit of an advanced technique, so if you're not completely familiar with how custom maps are created, this may be a bit of a problem. But for anyone who's genuinely interested, I will give you a very brief overview of how you create custom maps in Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. The way to get in is if you go to the start menu, if you go down, you will find it says terrain editor. If you go in there and open it, it says create map. What it does then is you get a completely blank canvas, and then you can set to creating a custom map, which can then be used to actually play the game. Now, the various techniques for building a custom map is way beyond the scope of this video. And at first glance, the interface looks very similar to the game, but of course there's no top bar. And if you come down the side here, what you'll find is you've got some menus. You've actually got terrain editing tools, which is what we'll be using. Oops. And then we got the terrain generator. This terrain generator is used if you want to create a broad map, and it's quite fun to play with. In fact, if you're interested in possibly learning how to create a custom map, it can just be fun to just click on these options and just see what you get, and then see if you can develop it. And then what we got is a brush tool for rocks, trees, and then we can paint in the resources. And then the other final difference is across the bottom here, you've got all your standard tools, so you can, if you want to create a custom map that's fully populated with mines and that one, you can do it. But the only real difference is down the bottom here is you've got a thing called sieve. Now, sieve contains the map default buildings. It's also got churches if you want to add churches, and there's some more residential buildings, and of course you've got the customs offices which you can add to the game, and of course you've got the foreign power connection, which is familiar to anyone who plays the game. And then there's the tool that we're going to be using, which is called water square, which is on the end there. And what I want to do in this video is actually add another lake, because what I've been doing is I've created an upper lake here, and if you can actually see, in fact, if I turn on the terrain tool, you'll see this lake is actually higher than this lake. With this map, when I actually play on it, because I am creating it to play, originally it was meant to be for an early start. In fact, it will probably remain an early start, but what I've decided to do is adapt it for a cosmonaut start for when the next update drops into the stable branch or whatever. What I've been doing is just doing a little bit of work on the map, and I got round to creating a lake, and I thought, well, while I've been doing this, I thought I might as well just share it with you guys. Anyway, let's get down to it. So what you need to do is turn on this area here, because to get this effect here, what you really need to do is flatten the center. Now, what I will say is the terrain tools in the editor are a lot more powerful than the ones you will find in the game. You can see here straight away. In fact, that's probably a little bit too high. And what you can do is change the strength here. Bring that up. Oops, a bit too powerful there, but that's okay. Yeah, these tools can be a little bit dangerous. One thing I will suggest, guys, is that if you want to create your own custom map, get into the habit of saving regularly. But what I want to do is just create a flat area, which is not the bottom of the lake, but technically the surface of the lake. It's probably the best way to describe it. And what I'm going to do is just flatten it through here. Just smooth this out a bit as well, because I want this to be there. Let me just correcting this again, sorry. So what I want it to look like, the lake is actually going to be overflowing into this area here. Just smooth this through. Probably chop that down a little bit too much, but that's okay. I can work on that later on. Unfortunately, you can't create rivers. I did try, for anyone who's interested, whoops, if I turn that off, I did try and create a little river through here if I zoom in. And what I found is these tools don't really go narrow enough to get a little narrow stream through. If you want to create a wide river, and of course the problem is that the actual water paste tool, which I was just about to use, works on a flat area, and this is why I'm actually leveling this area off here. I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of level this in a little bit like this, just to create a hint of this is where the direction where the river's going to flow. In fact, what we probably could do is just push this in a little bit like that. And that should create just a tiny little lip there. Now comes the fun part. What you need to do is select this water tile. And what you want to do is you can just draw it in like that. And this is the reason why I created this area so flat. In fact, this isn't completely finished yet. Sorry. Get this really strong. That. You want to get this flat because it just makes it a little bit easier when you do it. And then what I'm going to do is just delete erase the rock tools. Yeah, I can always draw them back in later on. Just remove the rock like that. So as I could create a little stream through there, or I could imply that the water's going down that way as well. And then if we get back to here, and what I want to do is try and paste in big squares of water that match with the thin contour line that I've created. What you're doing is pasting the flat area, but don't worry about these little areas on the side. What you're trying to do is get in the broad. You can go over a little bit, but don't go too far, because you see here, see it rising. If you get that, what will happen is you get a very strange visual effect. So the flatter you can keep this, the more stable the view you're going to get. But there are ways that around this. So what we're going to do is just paint in through here. Just keep painting in. Let's paint this in. Of course, if you rotate the map a bit, what you can get is this effect. So you can start, and you can overlap as well. So you can just keep putting in this bit here. This requires a little bit of patience. I mean, you can go up a little bit, guys, if you wanted to, because that's how you could create a river effect, but you will get some flickering when it's finished. But the more you can put on the flat area, the better. What we'll do is we'll just great. See the fringing there. Probably the best way to describe this is if any of you have done mathematics and done work with tangents, what you're working towards is getting tangential cuts across, which can be filled in. That makes sense. And we're just gonna put it in this area here. A little bit more work to do over here. Rotate the map a little bit. Oops. A little bit too aggressive. So we're just, whoops. If you do make a mistake, you can actually just come in here with the bulldozer, and that will actually remove sections of the. You can trim it back a little bit like that as well. I think we're going to leave that edge there. We've got a little bit of a rough bit there. That's okay, because we can tidy these edges up a little bit later on. Nope, don't want that. I think that's enough of an edge now, but you can see it's very boxy around these edges here. But what you can do now is come to terrain, get the smoothing tool. It's going to reduce the smooth, make it not quite so aggressive. And this is the reason why when you plan at a lake like this, you actually flatten an area that's slightly wider than what you want. And then you bring the terrain back in again. like this. Occasionally you get a little bit of a problem like this, but we can fix that in a minute. So what you do is you just come round like this. Actually, probably take off the contour map because you're doing this visually now. What you're doing is just putting in this little area here so you can start. And again, if you make a river wider than what it actually is, or the river effect wider than what it actually is, you can just come back in a little bit like that. And I suppose you could possibly, and what we may have to do is just, I think what I did there is I just went slightly up the hill a little bit too much. So and this is why I was saying it's quite important to try and keep it flat. And then we can just come in here. What I might do, this is more aesthetic a little bit. I'm gonna come here, put up the strength a little bit. Well, just create a little bit of a bluff here. I think we got a little bit of a illusion there. Is what you could call the fiddly bit, guys. You could probably spend quite a lot of time doing this, just trying to get the edge as smooth as possible. But I think we're getting pretty close. It's just we've just got a few problems on this side. Of course, what you can do is if you get in a bit too far, that bit of terrain there is a little bit high. What you can do is come in from the opposite way. If you take terrain height from the center, you can just push the map back the other way like this. Okay, we'll have to strengthen the bottom bit because there's obviously a little bit of, yeah, I think I've accidentally brought the bottom up a little bit too much there. So what we probably need to do is just snip that in a little bit there. Maybe you would just gently see if we can smooth this a little bit. Yeah, getting a little bit more on the edge. And of course, if I'd spent a bit more time with the initial tile out, so there wasn't so much there. But I turn this off now, and another way you can kind of ease the edge a little bit is by, if we come here, turn the strength down on the rocks, and do is just add rocks in here like this, so the rocks will cover, thin it down a little bit. We just got this here. It's probably a little bit too much on this side. One thing I would say, if any of you guys have not got into custom map making, it is very addictive. The other thing you can do is what I've done over here. If you've got an edge that's not 100%, what you can do is put a few trees round, and I think from a visual point of view, then that will actually break up the edge as well. But I think that's pretty effective. I'm obviously going to work on it a little bit more, but that's how you can add water that's above sea level. As I said, previously mentioned, it is purely decorative. If I come here and say we're going to have a sewage discharge, even if the ground is flat, it will tell me that this is not water. So you can't put a sewage discharge here. But of course, what you can do, and this is, sorry about straying slightly into gaming, is if you come to workshop buildings, sewage discharge, we've got this building. So if you get a map that's got water up here, you can always put a sewage, a modded version of the sewage discharge in. so that you can say that you're actually disposing into the lake. Now I think that covers this actual technique, but just to wind up for the video, if any of you guys who follow the channel, just to give you an idea, this is the map I've been working on. I've probably over the last 4 to 5 months put in over 100 hours or more into creating this map. It was meant to be a long-term project for a very early 1910 start, but what I'm doing now is just changing it a little bit so that I can use it for a cosmonaut start. And what I've been trying to do is just put lots of interesting features in. And just to show you over here, what I've done is created an oxbow lake here, and the river's deceptive because I put in a little bit of a cataract here to stop ships coming through. But this lake, it can be joined up with a canal if you wanted to. So that's the idea behind this lake. It took me a very long time to get this level, so that it's just above the level of the water. That's why it's got a slightly greyish tinge to it. So I think this is where I'm going to leave it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. What I will say is this map will make an appearance when the new update drops into probably the stable branch. And what I'll be doing is a cosmonaut series on this map. But until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.